Welcome to Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salcido, and tonight I'm recording episode 571 and sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page. And that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for having me on the network and putting all my shows up there. So if you'd like to support the show, there are a couple of different ways to do that. You can always find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction. I do have I've moved on from the writing and editing stage of making a book, writing a book, and looking into getting it published at some point. Hopefully at some time this year. We'll see what happens with that. I'll let you all know when it happens. It'll be the first nonfiction book connected to the podcast. So, or you can also find, I do have a Patreon page. I will not be putting out any more content in that until I get more interest in it. So, but it is there, so you can check that out. You can also just send a one-time donation through PayPal. And help is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. And I think that covers everything. So, I just wanted to make a note too about that. I do have a few episodes up on Patreon. It's just there hasn't been a lot of interaction there, and I'm just figuring might as well wait until hopefully at some point we get a much bigger audience that asks for more content in that kind of format, and then we'll go with that from there. It's just extra work, and or I would have to sort of decrease the episodes I release to the public every week. Like one, I have to put out just 5 instead of 6, and then put one up to the Patreon. So I don't really want to do that unless I need to. And so we're just going to sort of take a break from Patreon for now. But anyway, so, and thank you all for understanding as I took a week off there. Just didn't have any energy last weekend. It had been a busy couple weeks, so, but glad to be back here doing these shows now. And so let me see. Let me get to the stories here, and we can get going. Let's see here. Okay. This one says, I am 20 years old now. This happened when I was 13 or 14 years old. I used to go to a park for something called Open Gym, a program I'm guessing must be, and saw a girl around my age there for several days. One day, I gathered my courage and asked the girl for directions as an excuse to talk to her, and eventually we became friends. I can't remember much about our conversations, except for the direction question, where he basically they started talking to her. Strangely, no one else seemed to interact with or notice the girl, and she didn't attend school. The girl asked me to go for a walk, and we started racing in the park. She stopped me in the middle of the race, warning me about weird guys, in quotation marks there, who sat in a certain part of the park. I insisted on passing or going there anyway, and we ran in circles around that part of the park without being stopped by anyone. The next day, I found the girl exercising at the open gym, and we talked again, although I cannot recall our conversation. I gave the girl a paper with my phone number, which she took before we went on another run and said goodbye. The following day, the girl called me at exactly 12:02 a.m., asking me to come and meet her. But let me see, I lost my spot. Okay. But I had to end the call because my mother asked who was calling. I called the number back the next afternoon, but a man answered, claiming he owned the number, didn't have a daughter, and didn't live close to the area. I went to the park regularly for over a week, but never saw the girl again, and no one talked about her. She had never mentioned where she lived, and simply disappeared. I wondered if the girl was grounded by her parents, or if I experienced something weird. I always felt cold whenever I was near the girl, regardless of how warm the day was. So that's the end of that one. Um, it seems like he may have interacted with someone either from another time somehow, or a spirit possibly, because you do get accounts of people encountering other entities and or spirits who appear physical. So I don't know with that one. I'm guessing you could probably find some logical explanations for all those things, but as I always say, just taking in the possibilities of things outside of those regular explanations. The phone number thing, that's a whole other level of sort of paranormal activity in a way where you get a call or multiple calls from a number, and then try to reach it again, and it's not the same person, and they own the number and they don't know who you're talking about, and like they said in the story there, the person that the the experiencer called didn't even know what they were talking about. So that's a odd one there, but I feel like I've heard similar accounts before of people just meeting people that are there in one area for a little while, and then something happens and they're gone, and they don't give a lot of information about like who they are or where they're from or what they're doing or what they do, or they don't talk about themselves much in conversation, and then eventually they're just gone. And so that is a strange one in a way. And I wonder how often that happens with people and or even um, teenagers or kids or whatever. I feel like I've shared similar stories on the show before over the years, the last couple of years here. So, but yeah, odd one. And then the cold. You hear that about being associated with it actually being you're in the presence of some kind of spirit in some cases, especially if it's like the writer said there. Even there was always the air around the girl was always cold, even when the weather was not cold. So I don't know, but that's a quite the experience to have, I'm sure. So moving on to the next one. This one says, my boyfriend and I were lying in bed with the lights off, about to go to sleep. We both saw a random flash in the corner of the room, as if someone was facing us and taking a picture with the flash on the camera. There were no light bulbs or anything else near that corner, and the window shutters were closed. Even if the shutters were open, the flash came from the corner of the wall, as if a camera was set up there, facing us. I would normally explain this away as my eyes or brain playing tricks, but both my boyfriend and I saw it at the same time. The flash didn't light up the whole room. It was small and just lit up that exact spot. Has anyone ever had this happen before? Are there any other possible explanations? And that's where that one ends. I think there's just always energies and or entities that are just traveling around, um, probably at all times, and once in a while, for whatever reasons, due to the environment and or just all kinds of factors, sometimes these lights just show up and then are gone. Because it sounds like there, I mean, there was just this one time. And I mean, also, not even counting any sentient beings, I think there can just be various circumstances where energy is somehow generated and boom, you get a something like that. Just a brief flash that doesn't make sense where it's at, given its location and all those things. And then nothing else happens. It doesn't. They don't say that they have paranormal activity in their home constantly. It's not like this is an active location, as far as I know. So I wonder how often that happens, and how often that's the source of some of these these stories about lights, whether they're flashes or just traveling lights of any kind. How often it's just the environment, something going on that generates a light, and then it's done, and it may not do it again for who knows how long. That was sort of my thoughts when I read that one, because it does sound like two people saw it at the same time, and they tried to rule things out as far as light bulbs, no, windows, no. They tried to figure things out, but so yeah, I just thought I'd read that one because of just that point there I wanted to make, because I do think that one-offs, as the phrase goes, these one-time experiences people have in a location can happen, and so yeah. I just realized I forgot to mention a couple of things that happened in my apartment here last night, um, and it was real quick, and it was just sounds. I heard. I was sitting here working on my computer, just looking up things, and um, I'm actually working on what will be a new series of shows at some point. Probably a book review series to come in the future. And I was sitting here, and I heard what sounded like just a really quiet metal on metal tapping sound, like two or three times. And I could tell it was coming from in my kitchen sink, which is basically right on the other side of the wall where I'm at with my computer. I have one of those half wall things where you can look into the kitchen or out of the kitchen. And I thought that was odd, because my refrigerator will make noise here and there, and other things around here will sort of make noises, but that noise was very distinct, and I was able to trace where I heard it, and it didn't make any sense. So, so I heard that, and as I was sitting there trying to figure out what that was, I heard, and again, just very, very faint, very quiet, barely heard it. I heard the sound of what sounded like a man just humming like 3 or 4 notes. Didn't sound like they were aware of me. It sounded like they were just going about their normal business, like regular business or whatever. And then it was gone. And there was nothing else that happened before or after that night around here. But two things that normally I don't hear around here, even when it comes to paranormal activity. Usually it's tapping or bumping or bumps or whatever, and they don't come from right there in the kitchen like that usually. Or if they do, I can tell that's like one of the cabinet doors closing, which does happen too sometimes, just quietly. But it wasn't. The point is, it wasn't a. They weren't sounds that I hear in this apartment from everything settling or whatever, and they're just really quick. Now I think about it, I wonder if there was some kind of overlap in time or whatever, and someone was just in the kitchen, whether in the past or the future, sort of going about, maybe, I don't know, rinsing off dishes or silverware, and they happened to just bump the sink a couple times, and they were humming as they were working, and then that connection or that overlap or whatever just stopped, and then was gone. Because that's what it almost seems like now that I think about it. That sounds almost like it was just someone going through their usual routine. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to mention that because that happened, like I said, last night. Well, technically this morning, as I'm recording this early this morning because I stay up late. But yeah, and I didn't get a bad feeling. I didn't get a good feeling. I just neutral, and it was like something else was going on, and somehow I was able to hear it. So yeah. Anyway, just wanted to mention that because I do like to mention when things happen on my shows because might as well. But moving on to the next story here. Let's see here. Gotta scroll down to make sure I get. Okay, there we go. This one says, when I was living at my parents' house, I had a few paranormal encounters. I saw deceased family members in my room, but I never felt anything negative. My grandma gave me an old bronze crucifix that belonged to her grandparents. Wow, so that's going back a little ways. And I hung it above my door. After placing the crucifix in my room, my TV started switching on and off by itself, and it even stayed on once after I unplugged it from the wall. I didn't use the TV much at my parents' house, so I kept it unplugged. Years later, I moved out on my own and brought the TV with me, but I left the crucifix at my parents' house. I think it might have brought something paranormal with me. I'm sorry, yeah, not it. I think I might have brought something paranormal from my house with me to my new place. But again, nothing negative. I've seen things spin without any wind around, and I hear a noise every now and then, which I tell myself is probably just the house settling. My TV still switches on and off by itself, especially when I leave for work or head into town, even though I always turn it completely off when I leave or go to sleep. It rarely happens when I'm in the room, but if I leave to visit my parents for the weekend, I'll come back to find the TV on. Some days the TV doesn't do anything unusual, but it's strange how often it turns on when I'm away. I don't feel like I need to take any action, since it's not harmful to me. But I'm curious about what others think, and if this could be something more than just me seeing things. That's under that one. It sounds like it is more than just them seeing things. I don't know. You have electronics interacting in weird ways, possibly. It is odd that it happened, that the activity. Well, I guess they were seeing apparitions before they brought the I guess you might call it like a heirloom or whatever, that crucifix into the room. I wonder if there was some I don't know. The TV going on after that was brought in there. That's kind of odd in a way. But then having activity in their new place, even after they've left that heirloom behind. I wonder if it's more a case of the writer there, the experiencer, and or their family are just sensitive and had nothing to do or very little to do with that crucifix being brought into the room. Or it could be that it did enhance things while it was there, but still. Yeah, I don't know. It just sounds like maybe it's a case, more of a case of, as the term goes, haunted people instead of haunted houses. So yeah, that's a lot of activity, especially focused on the TV. But then it sounds like they have sort of like objects being manipulated, poltergeist possible activity there going on. So yeah, let's see if I can get one more story done here for today. If it's not too, yeah, this next one isn't too long. This one says, yesterday my girlfriend and I heard strange sounds in our apartment that didn't make sense. The one sound that stuck out to me the most came from the bathroom, which is located to the left of my bed. My cat's litter box is in the bathroom, and he has a habit of going in there, pushing the door closed, and meowing for attention. I was sitting on my bed watching videos on my phone when I heard what sounded like my cat meowing from the bathroom. I meowed back at him, expecting him to come out of the bathroom to be pet, as he normally does. When I looked up, I was surprised to see my cat sleeping at the end of my bed, not in the bathroom, where I heard the meowing sound. None of my neighbors have cats, so I'm not sure where that sound came from and what could have made it. And that's where that one ends. Sounds like a possible ghost cat, maybe. Especially if they were just hearing like random sounds in their place. If you think about that, yeah, DG in the chat there says, "Love how cat owners meow back." Yeah, I do that with Logan sometimes, my cat. Especially if she's like deciding to be really talkative. But I wonder if, because they didn't really specify the sounds as being like things they could really make out. It sounds like maybe just bumps and bangs and things, and I could see that being sort of just a cat moving around a place. I don't know. Maybe they have a ghost cat. Maybe it was their cat from some other time. Hard to say, but if there was no other sounds, I would be more likely to think that it was their cat from some other time or a cat from some other time period. But that's, that I think yeah, there's that too. It could be that the cat was teleporting. That chat there. I mean, I've had that happen with Logan. So, yeah, like I said before, I've told that story. I looked at her and then I turned away, and then she was in the opposite direction of the apartment from where I've been looking, and I looked back and she wasn't there anymore. So I don't know. I think they can teleport too. But let me see here. Real quick, I'm gonna read this. Ricky in the chat says, "My mom has seen ghost animals. Slowed her down one day because she went back in to get some food. Then the animal was gone. She got on the interstate and there was a wreck. Oh wow, that mom would have been in the middle of if she hadn't seen the ghost animal. Wow, that's quite the story there. Yeah, I don't doubt it. So thank you all for listening. We are out of time, and I will talk to you all in the next episode of Salsidoparanormal. Take care.